Hi, guys. We are back on the podcast. I am so honored to have Lucinda Wurtz with us. She actually has Well Driven Wellness LLC. First off, I want to give a quick disclosure, but actually, I'm not really even sure. I didn't even run this by you before, but we'll play it by ear here. So the disclosure I typically announce at the top of our podcast is this is a podcast built on our tips, our advice, our suggestions, and our opinions. But I usually say that we're not doctors, licensed nutritionists, or dietitians, but you actually have a degree and you are somebody, right?
Yeah, I guess I am somebody. I am a licensed marriage and family therapy associate at the master's.
Wow. Yes. And I've had the honor to meet you here in Spokane, Washington. We've done a lot of activities around town and we really hit it off. And I believe you have a heart of gold and you're incredible. And there's been times that we've been on hikes or walks and, some of the things that you say just like wash over me and just like, oh my gosh, I never thought of it that way. It's incredible. So I'm honored to have you on this podcast and I'm truly excited about the topic that we had talked about. So go ahead and start. Let's begin.
You're gonna make me remember the topic.
That's what makes it fun, the mystery.
Well, but the topic that we discussed was that I wanted to tie in mental health with physical health and how important it is to get out there and do some physical activity and how good it can make you feel.
Absolutely. And we met doing physical activity. I run a meetup group. Actually, we met on a different meetup group, I believe, but just doing walks together, and that's great exercise, right?
Right, it is. It's good exercise, but it also it gets you talking to people and gets you out there and making a connection. That's a really important part of exercising, is making that connection. We always think of it as, or a lot of times we think of it as something where you have to just push through it on your own. And that's kind of an interesting tie-in actually to mental health. A lot of people I just thought of that. Wow. A lot of people think of it as something you just have to push through on your own. And you don't. That connection part really can help you. So.
Yeah. I think that what we do, how we met was, just meeting up, going on a walk. The point of the Meetup app is to meet people of like kind, similar interests. It's funny, I did a booth not too long ago and I had a sign that said, Meetup on it. And everybody that came up to me and wanted to talk about that word, they instantly thought I was running some sort of dating site. It's like,
right. I get that too.
That's not what it's about. What can be, I do know that there are some single groups and that's great and that's fantastic. There's other groups that do some serious hikes where they go up, mountains. There's meetup groups that have the similar interest of dogs and they meet and they go for walks with their dogs. So, the meetup groups can be different. The one that I run is anything health and fitness or lifestyle related. Food tours, all kinds of fun things, yoga, let's go do a spin class, anything to meet and do exercise and improve on the cognitive awareness. Something you may or may not know, I don't think I've told you this, but with my recent blood work, it's been told to me that, hey, genetically, you have Alzheimer's in your family. So I would think that kind of ties in. And quite honestly, all he said is, you need to up your COQ10 and you need to make sure you're taking your fish oils, which I do both of those. He upped the amount. And he said, keep your mind active.
Right. And that's one of the most important things. I actually have a member of my family who has Alzheimer's, and there supposedly is no genetic link. The genetic part, I just went to a talk on Alzheimer's not too long ago, and the genetic part, they said, is more common in people who have early onset Alzheimer's. So if you haven't gotten it yet.
And that's what he said. He said, you can live your entire life and not ever show any signs. I remember my great grandmother, she seemed like she might have had some, and I don't know, I was so young. I don't know that I would know what Alzheimer's was back then, but something to be aware of. And I love learning. I love studying. I love exercise. So,
Right.
Keep the brain moving, keep active. I think
Mm-hmm.
that all ties along with that.
It does.
So good. And then I kind of wanted to touch on the fact that, so we are talking about mental health, fitness, but you also help couples, right?
I do. I love working with couples. I work from an EFT perspective, which is emotionally focused therapy. And so basically a lot of the time when couples come to see me, they're like, we don't understand each other. We speak a different language, or he's not listening to me, or she's not appreciating me. And it oftentimes is a communication issue. But you can learn all about communication and using I statements, if you've ever heard an I statement, like, I feel this way, and still not communicate well. And part of that is, at least from the theoretical standpoint that I have, part of that is the way your family had its own rules, its own unspoken rules. The words that they used had certain meanings. And even your own experience will change the way you view other people's actions, not just a family experience, but your experience. For instance, if you were attacked by dogs become a scary thing. And so that will follow you perhaps through your life unless you work on it. So when you have two people in a couple, and one has had experience ABC and the other one has experience, DEF over here, and they try to talk, they're talking as if they are from two different cultures. And there's a lot of miscommunication. So somebody can say, take out the dishes. And the person says, like, now? You mean, like, are you attacking me for not having done it already? And then it can escalate into a fight. Whereas another person, if you said, take out the dishes, they'd be like, oh yeah, those need to get done, and go do it. So miscommunication based upon experiences. And so when I work with couples, I tend to try and find out, what was that like when you were a kid? What was that like for you to hear? What did that remind you of? What do you think that person is saying right now? And then, they'll say, well, I think they're saying blah, blah, blah. And then the other person will say, no, that's not it. Okay, well, let's try a different way of saying it. So yeah, I love working with couples and to get them to both go, aha, that's what you meant, or you heard what I was saying, you get it. That's so important. So I love that.
I think that take out the dishes is a great sentence, and it can be misconstrued or could be understood differently in different phases of a relationship. Meaning, take out the dishes when you're newly in love would be, most people are, excited. I want to do something for her. I want to, please her. I'd be special. But after 20 years, take out the dishes might be completely different. It might be like, again?
Why do you keep making me do things? Yeah, kind of like that. So, I mean, when you first meet, you're in that, oh my gosh, I want to do everything for you, as you had said. You want to impress. And you're so willing to do just about anything to keep that person looking at you and saying, oh my gosh, thank you. That was so nice. And you're just like eating it up. Yeah, I am nice. That feels great. But then over the years, it becomes more of a chore.
Yeah.
And so when you add one more, take the dishes out of the dishwasher. It's like, yeah, one more thing. Thanks. That's a lot. So what do you do about that? And that's where that communication piece is. You're feeling like you're underappreciated, but what are they feeling like? And what are you doing to earn this appreciation? There's a whole lot of factors in there. I remember having a couple in, and one of them, I don't know, it's just kind of funny, but one of them would just look at that person, they never talk to me. They never talk to me. I come home from work. I'm so happy to see them, and they're just busy doing everything. And then we start talking about it. It's like, well, what else is happening? Nothing. And you go back to the other person and they're saying, well, I'm feeding the kids. I'm getting one ready to go to football practice. I'm trying to figure out how to get a ride for the other one because there's a lot going on in that person's life. But the person that came home doesn't see all that. They're seeing what they want. And so when you can help them to figure out what it is that they each need from each other, then there's a little bit better communication. Oh, I see what this person needs. So they're actually going back to when they first met, and they're trying to figure out how to meet needs, trying to figure out how to make that person feel better or make themselves feel good for doing it. So
I think it's good to, we'll tie this back into working out.
Yeah.
Totally. But, I think that in relationships, it's really good to go back to those things interests that maybe bonded you in the beginning. And that might be working out. Maybe it does take getting a babysitter and going to the gym, or finding a gym that does have daycare and spending time together. And and maybe you're not doing the same workout, but maybe you're in the same room and you're still, looking at each other and, like you used to, or, some of those things that maybe needs to carve that time out, create that time and that bond. And maybe you're right. You come home and, say, is there anything that I can take off your plate? And so it allows us some time to spend time together. I'm not sure, but no marriage therapist here, trust me, but or
that idea of working out together, it can also just be doing an activity.
Walk. Just, I love it here in Spokane. We're renting a place that's in a beautiful location. It's in a pretty busy neighborhood, but I see couples all the time walking together. There's one that I love watching in the morning right now. Sometimes I watch them walking separately. So one morning I'll see him walking, and then the other morning I'll see her walking, and then I'll see them walking together. But what's funny about it is they have a puppy. And when he's alone, he carries the puppy.
Oh, that poor puppy's not getting any exercise.
When she walks the puppy, the puppy's on the ground. And when they're together, the puppy's on the ground. So I feel like grabbing her one day when she's by herself and saying, your husband, boyfriend, whatever he is, carries that puppy. I don't know. It's just some of the observations I make when I watch couples. Yeah. And see, their body language or what they're doing, how they're interacting in the neighborhood. It's just funny.
It's funny. But that just taking that walk, though, it's a connection. They're able to talk about things. They could talk about what they're seeing on the walk. They can, it doesn't have to be the same old, what happened at work today? Or if you're in school, what happened at school today? Okay, that's great. Now we have nothing to talk about.
Well, and that is a good point. I think that in relationships, as time goes on, you get past that 12, 15-year mark. Sometimes it gets to be, all the conversations are monotonous, or what's going on with work, what's going on with bills, what's going on money, and, all of these stressors. And then, we don't have that time carved out, the date nights or whatever, where we are reconnecting and putting that stuff on the shelf. There was something that was mentioned not too long ago that I thought was a fantastic idea, was create a time, to be weekly or bi-weekly or once a month, whatever's needed in your relationship, that is, you can call it a name, but it can be like a business meeting or a financial meeting, but it is something that you both put on the calendar. You create a space, a time, an hour, whatever's needed, once a month, every other week, once a week, whatever it is that needs to be done with your guys' finances, because everybody's just a little bit different. And that be the space and time that you get caught up on all the bills, talk about all the financial stuff. So that way, the rest of the time, you're actually catching up with things like, hey, how was today? Did you complete that project? And, hey, let's go for a walk. Let's walk the puppy. Let's, or let's start planning that next trip, or, some fun things.
Or go check out something totally new in the area that you've never experienced before. Keep it fresh, Yeah. Interesting. Like, hey, you know what? They're having, they just paved a new trail over at 9 Mile. Let's go check it out, something like that. Just keeping it fresh And so you could both discover something together as well. And it keeps that connection going. The other thing is, a lot of people like to go out and eat together, but sometimes we eat too much because that's our only way of getting out and making that connection together. So working out.
Split a meal. But then you got to agree on the meal, right? That might be a problem because,
exactly.
Sometimes.
But put that together.
There's always a picky one. There's one that's really picky and then one that's not. So that might be the challenge. But splitting a meal, split a Sunday or,
I do that all the time. I'll go out with people and it's like, do you just want to get like a couple of hors d'oeuvres and we'll just like share them? And but when couples do it, it's, kind of a fun little thing.
Yeah.
What do you think about this? Yeah.
That could be a thing. You know what you should do? You should start a meetup group for couples.
Oh yeah. Meetup group for couples.
Meetup group for couples and teach them how to date again.
Oh, that might be fun. That's kind of a new thing for me too.
Yeah. So there you go. You got your guinea pigs. I
got my guinea pigs. That would be fun. Yeah. Well, it's interesting because, getting out there and getting moving. The other part of that is I wanted to talk about that mind-body connection. So I'm a marriage and family therapist, which doesn't mean I just see marriage and married couples and families, but I see everything. But part of that is it's viewed from a systemic view of people. And so you're not alone in the world. You're always interacting with people. We look at the family, how you were raised, what went on in your life, and how it was affected. And one of the things that we're finding is that people who had early stressors, whether it was trauma or chronic stress, a lot of yelling in the family or, a lot of any kind of stress, it affects their developing brains while they're children and it gets carried forward. So we may be a little more prone to kind of collapsing under stress or being very anxious. Another way to deal with that is exercise. Exercise tends to take the neurotransmitters in our brains, and especially serotonin, dopamine, and what's the other one? Trying to remember.
Serotonin, dopamine, endorphins.
I'll get to it. I can't remember off the top of my head. I would know it too. But the neurotransmitters, it tends to up those, which, for instance, like serotonin, that plays a big part in mood. So if you can get your serotonin levels up, it tends to allow you to handle, stress a little bit better. When you have a decrease in serotonin, you tend to have a little more mood swings. There's also the dopamine levels. Those tend to make you a little less emotional as well. So you want to protect yourself with that. So exercise does activate those and bring those levels up. And sometimes just naturally, we are genetically prone to having lower levels. And so you might you get that runner's high sometimes or that workout high. That's bringing your neurotransmitters up and trying to help go against those genetic issues. Another thing that brings those down is like drug and alcohol use. Sometimes it makes it so that you build kind of a tolerance. And so you can't quite get that balance in the neurotransmitters. So yeah, exercise does some great things and vice versa.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This is fantastic. I love this topic. How do we get a hold of you?
Oh, how do you get a hold of me? Well, I don't quite have my own website yet, but you can find me as well as a couple of other really cool therapists at wellmindtherapyassociates.com.
Beautiful.
So that's our overall website right now. You can also email me at Lucinda at whendrivenwellness.com. And that's whendriven with an E instead of an I. Those are the best ways to get a hold of me.
Great. And I'll put those links below this video so that way it's really easy to find and access. But yes, this has been fantastic, Lucinda. I've enjoyed our long walks and long talks and And I convinced you to do this podcast.
I
You were
know.
like, no, don't make me do it. But I knew you'd do great. You're incredible. And I just want to shout from the top of the rooftops that if you need any counseling at all, therapy, you reach Lucinda. She's incredible. She's your gal.
Hey, thank you.
You're so welcome. And I will definitely see you soon. And until next time, I'll see you then.